Melvina Whitmoore, More or Less a Horror Story. Written and illustrated by Faith Capalia. Melvina Whitmoore was afraid of everything. She was afraid of snails and spiders, the ticking of clocks. She was afraid of dogs and holes in the wall and tracking mud on the carpet and the sound of floorboards creaking beneath her feet. Sometimes she was even afraid of her own shadow. But when Melvina Whitmoore bought her new home on Salisbury Lane, she had hoped that she had finally found somewhere safe. Nothing could ever get to her there. As Melvina settled into her new bed and her new room and her new house, she knew that she had nary a thing to fear. Until... Beneath her, the floorboard shook, the walls began to rattle, the knobs on all the doors began to turn, and the hands on the clock spun out of control. The muffled voices that bounced off the hallway walls were too loud and too many, and Melvina could feel the hairs on her neck stand straight up. Melvina left her bedroom and tiptoed through what was meant to be the upper level of her home, but now felt more like a maze. A massive twisting and turning place with no up and no down, where all the floorboards creaked and the walls felt alive. She climbed and crawled and ran and found her way out through the end of the maze, through the hallway, where she could just see the door to her bedroom at the end of the house. As she stepped down the shaky staircase, she braced herself. Be ready to run, Melvina, she thought. When she reached the first floor landing, there, in her home, tracking mud across the carpet and rattling the old bones of the house, well, Melvina didn't know quite what they were, actually. They were small and large, and some had many legs and some had none, and they moved in rhythm and with purpose. Their many feet, or none at all, tapped hard against the floors of her new home and shook the walls and woke the mice and turned up all the dust from the rug, and none of them seemed to mind at all. If Melvina was being honest, the creatures, these great brutes and shadowy figments, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. And, as if by magic, Melvina was pulled into the crowd of monsters, where they hooted and hollered and covered the carpet in mud. The dust they kicked up turned into thick clouds, and Melvina was so afraid she did the only thing she could think to. She ran. Melvina ran just as fast as she could back to the wobbling staircase, but now climbing each stair was like scaling a mountain. Now she was small like a mouse, and she felt like she might slip through the creaking floorboards. The creatures and critters and horrible beasts reached their clawing hands and scaly talons for her until she was again met with the winding maze. As Melvina rounded each corner and zigzagged through the labyrinth that used to be her hallway, she could hear the thunderous footsteps not far behind her. She turned left and right and left again so many times she lost count until finally she had reached her bedroom door. The rumble and orchestra, footsteps and shouting grew louder and louder, and Melvina dove into her bed, closed her eyes tight, and pulled the covers over her face, hoping that here she would be safe. But, as it turns out, safety is not always the thing we expect it to be. Melvina held her hands into tight fists like stones and pulled her sheets around her, and she hoped that she would become a ghost, transparent and invisible. Ghosts are also not always the things we expect them to be. "Excuse me," came the gentle but warbled voice from beyond the end of her bed frame. "Excuse me, but we'd really like it if you joined the party. We've gone through all of this hard work, and we'd love for you to be able to enjoy it too." "A party?" Melvina asked. And with a delightful commotion, the monsters and beasts and ghosts and ghouls tumbled into her room, shouting and cheering as they welcomed her warmly into her new home. "Of course," said one of the creatures. "This is your home, after all." And they were right. This was her home. Melvina knew that she had nothing to worry about. Not ghosts or ghouls or monsters with claws, not even their many feet stamping mud into the carpet. Melvina had finally found somewhere safe.